Well, good morning and welcome to your Friday 5 for 5. As always on Friday mornings, I am Adam, the worship pastor here at First Baptist Church of the Islands. All this week we have been talking about the incarnational ministry of Jesus. And when Pastor Brooks first mentioned this topic to me, my mind immediately went to a story that I used to hear every Christmas as a boy. Now, I'm really going to date myself here, but it was a story that was told by the iconic radio personality, Paul Harvey. And it's a story that was simply entitled, The Man and the Birds. I'd like to share that story with you today, if you will let me. The man I'm going to tell you about was not a Scrooge. He was a kind, decent, mostly good man, generous to his family and upright in his dealings with other men. But he just didn't believe in all of that incarnation stuff that the churches proclaimed at Christmas time. It just didn't make sense, and he was too honest to pretend otherwise. He just couldn't swallow the Jesus story about God coming to earth as a man. Well, he told his wife, "I'm truly sorry to distress you, but I'm not going with you to church this Christmas Eve." He said he would feel like a hypocrite and that he would rather just stay at home, but that he would wait up for them. So he stayed and they went to the midnight service. Well, shortly after the family drove away in the car, snow began to fall. The man went to the window to watch the flurries getting heavier and heavier, and then he went back to his fireside chair and began to read the newspaper. Well, minutes later, he was startled by a thudding sound, and then another, and then another. At first, he thought someone must be throwing snowballs against the living room window. But when he went to the front door to investigate, he found a flock of birds huddled outside miserably in the snow. They'd been caught in the storm, and in a desperate search for shelter, they had tried to fly right through his large landscape window. That was what the sound he had been hearing was. It was these poor little birds hitting the window. Well, he couldn't let the poor creatures just lie there and freeze, so he remembered the barn where his children stabled their pony. That would provide a warm shelter, and all he would have to do is to direct the birds into the shelter. Well, quickly, the man put on a coat and he put on his galoshes and he tramped through the deepening snow to the barn. He opened the doors wide and turned on the light so the birds would know the way in, but the birds did not come in. So he figured that food would entice them. So he hurried back to the house and he fetched some breadcrumbs. He sprinkled them on the snow, making a trail of breadcrumbs to the yellow-lighted, wide-open doorway of the stable. But to his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs. Well, the birds continued to flap around helplessly in the snow. He tried catching them, but he couldn't. He tried shooing them into the barn by walking around and waving his arms. Instead, they scattered in every direction. Well, every direction except into the warm, lighted barn. And that's when he realized they were afraid of him. To them, he reasoned, "I am a strange and terrifying creature. If only I could think of some way to let them know that they can trust me, that I am not trying to hurt them, but to help them." But how? Any move he made tended to frighten them and confuse them. They just would not follow. They would not be led or shooed because they feared him. Well, he thought to himself, if only I could be a bird and mingle with them and speak their language, then I could tell them not to be afraid. Then I could show them the way to the safe, warm barn. But I would have to be one of them so they could see and hear and understand. At that very moment, the church bells began to ring. The sound reached his ears above the sound of the wind. He stood there listening to the bells. Adeste Fideles, listening to the bells, pealing the glad tidings of Christmas. And he sank to his knees in the snow. You know, I love that story. And it was at that moment when he realized what it all meant, that he realized the incarnational ministry of Jesus was true. Jesus truly is Emmanuel. He truly is God with us. You know, I hope that you realize who he is in your life. I hope that you've had a great week learning about the incarnational ministry of Jesus. And I hope that from this simple, fun little story that you see our need for a Savior. I know I went a little long today, but I love this story and wanted to share it with you. I hope we'll see you this coming Sunday as we worship together at 9 and 10:30. And then also this weekend is our Christmas nights of worship with our combined choirs and our student praise team. That is on Saturday night and Sunday night beginning at 6 o'clock with some little fun stuff happening a few minutes before. So we hope to see you this weekend. God bless. We love you. And remember, our Emmanuel simply means that God is with us. We love you. Bye-bye.